coolest stations in the world.
Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio show for over 20 years.
Everyone's listening.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. It's time to welcome in Cole Bagley. Cole, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Cole, you're covering the team, which means you've got to be in multiple places at once. And so I am curious what you know, because I know you're, with the team in training sessions out in Kearns and at the games and all that. But meanwhile, the news is broken that the number 6 pick in the draft, the Utah Hockey Club's first ever draft selection, Tijan Ginla, who was just killing it at 21 games, 14 goals, and 18 assists in the WHL. He's got to have hip surgery. He shuts it down for a year. What does that mean for his progression to the NHL? Is that a one-year setback? Will they just speed it up and he'll arrive at about the same age anyway? What does this mean for him long-term? Short-term, it means surgery and rehab. But long-term, what does it mean for his career, if anything?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Ginla. His production was up about 20% from last season. He was doing all the right things that he needed to in order to really better his chances to make the team next year. Not a guarantee by any means, but he was developing the way that they were hoping for, and has ultimately decides to have hip surgery, and it's a fairly significant setback in terms of he's probably going to have to spend another year in the juniors. It just is what it is. But rather than most likely competing for a spot next season, he's probably going to be out for a good amount of time, which will send him back to the juniors for another year. And like I said, it wasn't a guarantee. It still was, a lot of things had to go right, let's just say. But he was improving, and so this will set him back, and we'll probably see him in the juniors for at least another year.
That win over Las Vegas, 6-2 Zippo, really catches your eye, right? You got a lot of good things going on in that game. And the first shutout in Utah history, but it was by a new guy, Stauber. And we know Ingram day-to-day, although Torney said the other day that he's not close. And we've had the other guy they call Veggie in there. What do you see going forward at that position?
Yeah, right now it's Vejmelka's net. He's been fantastic. He's up towards 92% save percentage, which is in the top 10 in the NHL. And I like Veg. I think he's been great this year. He's answered the call. Ingram struggled a little bit. Even when the team was winning games, he was sub 900. Which is tough to win, but it was just being overshadowed by the amount of goals that Utah was scoring. Putting in the back of the net. And so it's unfortunate to see, Ingram go down with an injury, but it's a big opportunity for Vejmelka and Stauber as well. So Vejmelka's been great. Like I said, it's his net. I would anticipate, probably a 70-30, 80-20 between him and Stauber. Vejmelka's going to play the majority, and, Stauber will fill in here and there when they need to rest Vejmelka, because, you're not going to play all 82 games. Goalies just, they tire out every once in a while. So it's like what we saw. They threw Stauber in against Vegas. He posted a shutout, which was pretty incredible, especially a team like Vegas that was third in scoring in the league. He looked fantastic. He looked confident. And it's a cool story for Stauber. He hadn't played an NHL game in about 2 years. So for him to come in, to have that confidence, to respond in that way, it's a really positive thing for the Utah Hockey Club right now.
I don't know with a team that's this new how much I really get the vibe of the team, right? When you've been covering a college football team or the Jazz or whatever and been watching them for a long time, you can kind of sense the emotional energy the team has, right? They're really under it now. They're really – and I just, we're 25 games in. But watching this last month, and they've almost – it's not perfect, but they've almost alternated wins and losses. And I definitely feel like there's something like when they took the ice in Montreal, they were when they took the ice in Pittsburgh, they'd lost 3 in a row. They'd gotten away from the alternating wins and losses thing. And I felt like there was this, hey, Pittsburgh's not very good. We have got to win, right? And there's this energy. Now, they don't quite get it done in the next game against Toronto. You really feel them grinding out against Montreal. When they blow that lead and lose to Edmonton, it's like they went to the ice in Vegas like, this has to happen. We have to start well, and we have to continue it. People were picking up that vibe. Is that on the mark as far as what's being talked about in the locker room, what the coach is saying to them at practice and in between periods?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that this kind of up and down swing is happening is there's a couple of things, right? Like, this is a young team.
Right.
They started the year out second or third youngest in the HL. I think with some of the trades that they've made and the people that they've called up, they're now about fifth youngest in the league. So still, very, very young team. The superstars are 21 years old. Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, even Jack McBain's only 24. Barrett Hayton's 24. Michelli's 24. Like these, most of their high production guys are fairly young. Keller's 26, so he's a little bit older. But for a captain and a guy that hasn't even fully reached his potential yet, still a lot of youth on this team. And so that's one of the biggest reasons is these young guys. When you look at Cooley, this is just his second full season. When you look at Guenther, this is his first full season. So they're just trying to figure it out. Consistency is one of the hardest things in the NHL because it's different than the NBA. In the light of your best players are only playing half the game at best, right? Like Sergachev is leading this team, on ice minutes, and that's 25 minutes a night. There's 60 minutes in a hockey game. And so consistency is really tough because your lines are constantly changing. There's a fairly significant difference from your top two lines compared to the bottom two lines. And so that youth are trying to figure it out, right? Like you'll see a game where, Cooley and Guenther are going to score, they're going to combine for a few points, and then they might go a game or two where they don't. And so consistency is tough because they're young, and that'll come with time. And the other thing is, they haven't quite gotten the most contributions from some of the veterans. Lawson Krause has struggled this season. He's only got 5 points through 25 games. Nick Schmaltz took 24 games to score a goal. Now he's got 3. He's got a good amount of points. I think he's leading the team in assists with 17. But like I said, it's kind of a combination of two things. You got a lot of young guys, and then you got some veteran guys that are just struggling. And so it's tough to find that consistency because on the nights that you're getting really good play from everybody, they're putting six goals on Vegas and winning a big game. But other nights where they can't find that complete 60-minute hockey game, they're losing close ones. But that's what's encouraging is they're not getting blown out in these losses. It's 1-2 goal games where they're right there. It's just 5 to 10 minutes of poor hockey that set themselves back. So once they can find that consistency and they can get over that hump, this is going to be a pretty darn good hockey team.
For Schmaltz scoring goals, it's just the fact he grew the mustache, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Guenther tried to copy him a little bit, but he admitted that Schmaltz pulls it off a lot better, and I'd have to agree with him on that one.
What's this deal with this Four Nations Faceoff that we're going to be having coming up? I think it's in February. Yeah,
so it's in replacement of the All-Star weekend. With the Olympics coming up next year, the NHL wanted to kind of take an initiative to put these guys on the ice for their countries because it's been a while since we've seen the best teams, represent their countries. They didn't do it in the last Olympics, and so I think it comes at a really good time. The All-Star event, it's hard, right? Like, and you kind of see that across most leagues. Is a lot of guys don't take it as seriously. It's hard to get viewership and all that stuff, and so they decided to kind of flip the script and do a Four Nations face-off tournament. So it'll take place, I think, the 12th of February through the 20th. You got 4 teams. You got USA, Canada, Finland, and Sweden. Each team will play 3 round-robin games, and then the 2 teams with the most points at the end of that stretch will play in a championship game. And it's very exciting. Those countries are generally the ones, winning gold and silver and bronze medals. And so it's the best of the best. The guys are excited about it. Utah's got 2 players, Valimaki and Olli Mata, representing Finland. They didn't unfortunately, Clayton Keller did not get named to Team USA, and they didn't really have anybody else that had significant chances. But it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than an All-Star break would be. These guys are representing their nations, and that's a big deal. So it should be a lot of fun, and I know the hockey world's really excited about it.
And Utah won't play between February 9th and 22nd, a week and a half off. How do they handle that? How many guys go to the beach in Mexico? How many go home to Canada and freeze in February? But see family, which is cool, and the weather's cooler, cold, brutal. How do they handle all that, and what's the impact on a team? I mean, the layoff mentally and physically getting healthy, but, man, 13 days without playing, you can get pretty rusty pretty quick.
Yeah, it's, fortunately, pretty much everybody's going through it, right? And there's actually some teams that might we'll see how it goes. The last two Stanley Cup teams, Vegas and Florida, they've actually each got about, I think, 8 guys from their squads going to play in this Four Nations Faceoff tournament. So we'll see what the wear and tear is. Like I said, I think these guys are going to take it a little bit seriously, but you have to balance it at the same time. Like, you don't want to go get injured. So maybe it's fortunate that Utah only has 2 players going. I think it'll come at a good time, where they can, rest up and relax. And generally, there's pretty significant pushes after the All-Star break, if you will, or this, Four Nations Face-Off, where, teams can go on runs and push themselves into a playoff spot. So, yeah, it's a good amount of time off, but, these guys are still going to be practicing on their own and, resting up, and then, they'll come back, and we'll see where they're at that point. But, it could come at a good time, and it could also be a motivating thing for a guy like Clayton Keller. I believe he was snubbed from Team USA, and so for him, maybe he takes this as a motivation, kicks it into a new gear, and, leads this team into a hot streak, which would be great.
Cole, we appreciate the time, as always. Thanks for checking in, and we will check back with you in a little while.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Cole Bagley joining us here to talk Utah Hockey Club. DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up next, everything you missed in this show. The hoops, college, and pro. Big NFL game tonight. And the Big 12. Snubbed again. Barry Trammell came on to talk about that. We'll get you up to speed next. Stay with us.
Now let's get this party started.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
This story is crazy about becoming an ultimate Aggie, which apparently is getting up on that bull naked. What bull is it? Is it the one that's by the Estes Center? Isn't that bull like bucking? I'm just wondering how 5 nude men could fit on that.
It's a big bull.
5 nude men could fit on that?
5 smaller men, probably could make that work. There you go. That's the size of the thing right there.
Okay, it's not bucking. You could probably fit upwards of 10 naked men on that. So in order for you to be the ultimate Aggie, you have to be naked?
Yes.
I did not know that this was a thing.
See, I would think if you were going to be an ultimate Aggie, that it needs to be solo.
Because these 5 were not solo.
And that's where a lot of guys up at Utah say, like, hey, let's maybe dial that down a little bit.
Easy. One ultimate Aggie at a time.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.